Hi, welcome along everyone. Today I'm going to show you a simple easy job and it's just how to take a central heating radiator off the wall. This here is the radiator we're going to take off today. There's one in the kitchen here. As you can see, we're going to do a bit of decorating and so forth. It wants to come off out the way. Just a few bits you're going to need. An old washing up bowl I use here, general purpose to put water in, a little receptacle, little blue receptacle there to catch the water that comes out of the radiator, a couple of spanners, I use of footprints and an adjustable spanner, and an air key, and that should be all you require to do this simple little job if you want to take a radiator off the wall. So let's begin. So, assuming you have thermostatic rad valve, which most of you have these days on your radiator. Don't worry if it's just a turn valve, you just turn it all the way off. That end, and you have, well, I haven't got a lock shield, but most of you will have a lock shield, but I've got this special drain off valve here, so mine's actually got a turn wheel on it. But I'm going to pretend that that's a lock shield type valve to show you what to do to turn it off. Obviously, for the thermostatic one, just turn it all the way, okay, right the way down to 0. That is now off, okay, that is fully off. The more technical comes with the lock shield valve, and I'll show you what to do. So, the lock shield end, most of you will be able to pull the head straight off. You might find some have a screw in the top of here. Undo that first and just pull it away and it will reveal the top of the valve. I like a small spanner like this because you can get it down to go onto the head of the valve to turn it off. So, this is a very important one now. These valves are set to balance your system out. So what you've got to do here is just count the amount of full turns that you've got. Because when you turn it back on, you've got to turn it back the same amount. That's to keep your system balanced out. I won't go into the very hairy details of all this, but this is to get an even spread of heat through your radiators. So you don't want this one on full, if it isn't on full, because it could steal all the heat from the other radiators. So what we've got to do here is count the amount of turns. So there's one. This one isn't on much, I know. And then that's only on one turn. So I now know when I turn that back on, I'll just turn it back one full turn. And that's because this particular radiator is very close to the boiler, which is next door in this cupboard here. So this one has been turned down deliberately so as not to steal the heat from all the rest. Okay, so we move on now. Next bit is fairly important before you go trying to undo anything, to make sure the water is off. And by the way, you've got to do this anyway to let air in the radiator so that the water will come out. Radiator key, stick it in your air valve and open it up. You should get a little bit of water out like that, okay, and that should tailor off. It'll just tailor off down, and then when that stops, you know it's definitely off. It tailors off and you know it's isolated. You haven't got to drain the water system out. The radiator valves are locked off fast. You know, all is safe now. You can start to undo the nuts, the union nuts, which we'll progress with next. Right, so I'm showing you the thermostatic valve end, which we're going to loosen off with this spanner. Get it adjusted, ready to go on there. And one thing, please don't do this. I've seen people do it before. They unscrew this valve head to get a better access to do that. Now, please don't do that. Okay, so we're going to have a spanner and we adjust it for that nut there. We're going to turn it down that way, okay, to the floor. And what we need to do before we do that is make sure that we hold against with this spanner, because if we just try and turn that down, there's a chance that valve could pull on this pipe and start a leak, because you can't have all the strain on there. There's only an olive in there, and if you did it without holding against, there was a possibility you could cause a leak on this union. I don't want to frighten you with that one, but you could. So I use a bit of this round here, just so we don't mark the chrome, and put the spanner on, and just hold against with that left hand and turn down with the right like so, and there we go. Once it's going, you can dispense with that one and you should see water start to come out of the union, and that means we're on our way to emptying the radiator. So now we can undo it a few turns and get it to move. Just get that running like so, and we'll let that rad now empty. This is the long spell now. It's going to take a little while, depending on how big your radiator is now, for all the water to come out. So it's a case of waiting on now until it's empty. So we'll return in a second when it's all empty. I'm sure you don't want to see water dripping for the next half hour. So Next scene will be the rad will be empty and proceeding to take off. So when you're satisfied, all the water's out, you can safely pull that pipe out of there. Okay, because there's very little left in there now. It's enough for our receptacle to take the very end of it. And we'll let that finish off, and then we'll undo the lock shield end. So once again, we have our valve. This one says a drain off type. Put the cloth on there, hold against. Okay, so get that firmly on there, the spanner, hold against it. It's a bit more awkward because it's got this drain valve on. I'll get a clamp on there. This one will go up the opposite direction, so we're going to go this way for this one. Okay, try and keep my hands out of the way as much as possible. So get him on there and let him go. And we should, there we go. And that's it. Once we've got it there, we can now proceed with undoing this one, same as the one at the other end. Shouldn't be much there, it's all empty, probably a few drips, that's all. Now what I like to do when we do get to the end is to pull the valve out and clear of the rad if we can, because it makes it a bit easier when you're lifting it away if you can kind of get it wedged on the end. Now you may need a partner or an assistance with that just to get it wedged. This one actually is wedged there now nicely. It means when I pull this thing off it will just clear the pipes easily. And do the same with the other end as that one there. And I say if you can't get that to do it yourself to wedge, just get a partner to hold them apart for you while the rad's lifted off. Now don't forget, if it is a very big, large radiator you're removing, you will need assistance. Don't try and do it on your own. Okay, they're very heavy and you'll need a person at the other end of the rad while you lift it away. So without further ado now, we're going to do that and lift it away. So we're already lifted off now, and as you can see I've got a bowl up this end because when I lift this there'll still be a little bit of black sludgy water in the bottom. It doesn't matter how much inhibitor you've got in your system, there always seems to be this little bit in the bottom of every radiator. If that black sludge hits your carpet, especially if it's a creamy one, believe me, it will stain and it's a hell of a job to get out. So what I'm going to do is lift this rad now and tilt it so that the water goes into this bowl. It's an old one, it doesn't matter, till the black sludge is gone. Then when I get it out, we'll put it on the floor and turn the whole radiator upside down. Once it's upside down, that will be it. So because I'm going to turn it upside down, I'm going to turn the bleed valve back off. We don't want any water coming out of there, so because we know it's empty, we're safe to shut that down now. So I'm going to turn that off. Put this bowl ready to catch the black sludge that will come out of here. So here we go. I'll show you the way I do it. Grab both ends, straight lift off, keep it level, and now tilt. And there it comes. There's a little blacky sludgy stuff. You always get a bit. And if you are working above a carpet, keep the carpet covered, put something down, whatever you do, because sometimes you still get a little drop out. Once you're happy it's all out, so move your bowl out of the way or just kick it out of the way if you like that. Because we've got this drained off, this bleed valve shut down, we're safe to turn the radiator upside down. Now what I tend to do is do this, and now transport it to wherever you want because it's upside down, there's no more going to come out of these ends now, and you're safe to move it. And basically that's the rad off the wall. Putting it back, just the reverse, do your connections up, hold against as I've shown when you do the final tighten of the union back on. Get someone to help you if it's too awkward a rad, just to line the pipes up when you drop it back on the brackets. And basically turn on, bleed the radiator again, and one very last thing, don't forget, whatever the amount of turns were that you turned the lock shield on, the same amount back on. That will keep your system balanced and not take all the heat, like on this instance, being right next to the boiler. If I was to turn this one fully on, the lock shield end, it would steal the heat from the system. So whatever the amount of turns were that you turned the lock shield off, turn it the same amount back on, you know it could be balanced then. And the very last thing, if you've got a combination boiler, you will need to top the pressure back up to 1.5 bar. So that's the very last thing. If you've got a combi, if you haven't got a combi, of course you haven't got to worry about that. You're all set to go tickety boo. So there you are, just a little quick one from me. I was asked about taking a rad off, and I thought, well, as I'm doing this today, I'll film it for you anyway, as I'm in the middle of a bit of a decorating scam at the moment in the kitchen. So there we go, that's it. Okay, normal place for all my stuff, you know, to go Derrickton 33. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye bye.